Thank you so much, backstage. And hello, Ali. It's a pleasure for you to be here. Hello, everyone in the audience. So, I'm Maia Benzimra. I'm the co founder of Benzimra and Co., and we are a Web3 native strategy, marketing, and technical consultancy. And we support on chain businesses to build, launch, and scale. This is the third episode of the Founders Ledger, a platform for the voices in Web3 who are doing the groundwork and driving professionalism within our industry. We'll use this space to provide founders with valuable advice and knowledge. And today we have Ali Khan, who is the emerging tech principal at AS Legal. If you wouldn't mind just giving an introduction, Ali, and letting people know who you are and what you do.
Sure thing, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you so much for having me. So I have been driving the emerging tech side of AS Legal for the best part of the last 5 years. It was formed just at a time when virtual assets and emerging tech in general was finding a new lease of its life in the sense of coming out of COVID and suddenly laws and regulations had to pay attention to the fact that this groundbreaking technology was here that was going to change the paradigm of the way society worked. I thought, okay, well, I can't think of a more fun or interesting arena to be a lawyer in than in an area where you're dealing with frontier laws. So we've been doing that for 5 years. We're headquartered in Dubai in the UAE, with a presence in various different parts of the world. We are in the process of getting our SRA license in the UK over the course of the next 12 months. So we'll be able to service that corridor in particular, and we're capable of servicing other corridors, for example, from the UAE through to the US, where interesting things are happening over through our network.
Amazing. And I always like to kick off with a bit of an introduction as to how we met, the type of work we do together, because everyone that comes on to the Founders Ledger, we generally have a strong working relationship, a partnership, and a history within the industry together. And often it's people that have been in this space kind of since day one, who have been building really incredible things. So um, let's just backtrack a bit. So you and I met in, I believe, in Coco's in Camden, probably um, at the early hours of the morning at one of the after parties at Zebu Live. And I think my initial impression of you was just like, this guy's got a lot of integrity, really super interesting work. And I think ever since then, we pretty much started collaborating, even from like a high level touch point. So that was a great night. And it was really nice to meet you. And we've actually been working together, you and I, on the Benzimra and Co. Setup, and you've been helping us a lot in the UAE. And something that I've been very appreciative of you is not only do you provide that legal structure and framework, but you've been very supportive, as you have mentioned, as a founder to founders. And that's been such a wonderful experience working with you, because it's like, not only because can I trust you as our legal counsel, but something that I've very much enjoyed with working with you is that you seem to really have our best interest, both me and my co-founder. And, we've spent multiple hours sitting and being in the middle of some really tough conversations. So I'd love for you to touch upon that a little bit about around that work that you do, because it's very interesting.
Yeah, sure, of course. Maybe I can give a wider context into how that ties in and into why I do what I do. For me, virtual assets, when they came about, were an incredible opportunity to create a new medium or plateau for the world to be able to try, at least to try and do it a different way. Um, Before I'd done virtual assets, I've done lots of weird and wonderful things. Um, a human design theorist would say I'm one of those manifesting generator types who will go away and just do lots of
Ooh, I'm also a manifesting generator.
different.
Industrial.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And so I'd studied Arabic and history as an undergraduate, and that meant I lived in Damascus in Syria. in my year abroad, which completely changed my world from 2009 2010. And I became very entrepreneurial there. I was involved in
Oh,
um,
we've lost you, Ali.
oh,
There we go. You're
there.
back.
Right, sorry about that. So I was
No
in
worries.
so I was in Syria 2009 2010, and I was involved in helping setting up Syria's first English language daily newspaper. And that experience of being entrepreneurial in frontier spaces where it wasn't the easiest thing to just set something up really sort of set the tone for how I thought one could actually help bring some sort of, I wouldn't say the word change. I think at the time I would have used the word change, but I think you grow into realizing, yeah, everything always changes. And then, when I got back to the UK, the war started in Syria, and I realized, it's really important to really recognize how the systems of the world work and what things are operating that prevent happy healthy people from leading happy healthy lives no matter where they're from or who they are. And I got, I trained as a barrister, got called to the bar, and immediately life took me to Dubai, where I worked for DLA Piper for 3 years, again, working on this frontier idea of common law to civil code, which is, a big part of what one does when one operates in the UAE. Especially as a litigator originally, and again, it was about frontier. It was about how can you serve, how can you be, and I found that whilst I really loved the work and I really enjoyed being at DLA Piper, I was much more suited for smaller environments at the time. So me and some friends helped set up a music festival in the UAE. We built Wasla, the alternative Arab music festival, where we built a platform for musicians and artists to help provide a regen. All right, my
Right,
apologies.
crux of the story.
Yeah, the crux of it goes to the point that after having led to a point of doing many different things from music festivals, newspapers, etc., I kept seeing the same problem, which was trying to find capital, trying to find liquidity to help businesses operate and found in a way where that constraint wasn't necessarily limiting to great ideas that needed to be had. Um, Led me to virtual assets. It led me to the idea of what if there's another economy where we had new structures of governance, where really antiquated ideas of the way law operated didn't have to affect the way that founders operated and built businesses. And so that led to doing some early stage work on governance structures, early stage work on how to build fairer environments. I was hugely fascinated by what ETH were doing in the early days. And so that led through to a point where when AS Legal started, the entire basis was providing that fractional general counsel service to founders, such that you were in part there to help them with understanding and navigating laws and regulations that were changing every 4 months, every 5 months, every 6 months in an inherently international sector where different laws affect you all the time, but also to help navigate the stress of how to do that, right? You
Yeah.
know, I don't think it's unfair to say that about 90% of startups one sees are a proxy for therapy, right? As in, it's one stage or another, somebody goes through some hell. They say, you know what, I need to alchemize all that energy into a startup and make something valuable out of it. Well, that's great. That's fantastic. That's really useful and constructive energy. But then how do you actually navigate that out of yourself as a founder and into something where you're doing it of service and of building something bigger than yourself, where you get other stakeholders involved, where you're not limited just by your passion, by your energy, but you start serving an energy that you're out there. Now, that's a process. That's a process that one has to go through. It's a process one has to learn. And it's a process that if you have learned that or have been in the process where you've learned it yourself, you can help on an equal measure others to go through that themselves. And that's the way you evolve new spaces like Web3 from a series of egos into an industry, an ecosystem that is of service to a wider pool of stakeholders. So yeah, and that seeing that evolution happen over the course of the last 5 years has been absolutely fascinating. Has been amazing.
Yeah, and I think honestly, the way that you approached it with us, anyway, I'm sure that there's some similar practice, but it was highly professional, helping us navigate, as co-founders, which side of the business would be more important for us to manage, and really testing us to be very direct in our desires about where we want to be as a company. So I think you really went above and beyond for us, and I really enjoyed the way that you worked. It was a little bit like therapy. But at the end of the day, it was mentorship, and it enabled us to have a very clear picture around the company setup. And what I really like about you and your experience is that you've obviously got a lot of experience in the UK and in the UAE, which was ideal for us, having the fact that we were set up between the UK and the UAE, and you were able to provide a lot of advice throughout those regions. So yeah,
Hmm.
just generally super impressed with how you approach things. And I think like you were saying before, there are a lot of egos in this space. And I think the way that you approach it is that you're able to cut through that and get really to the heart of the company, what they're trying to achieve, and provide the best advice and setup legally for them, which is very, very important work.